Okay. So I saw this, it's a year old, but I found it, decided to watch it. I watched like 7 minutes, and I was continuously frustrated about a certain aspect in this video. Oh god, it's so stupid. Because there's a clear explanation of why this happens. I'm going to talk about it when it happens in the video, but anyway. So this, I guess this is a reaction video.
And should we be worried? The Jetsons is a classic Hanna-Barbera cartoon.
Note, I have not watched a lot of his videos before. If Eddache, however you say it, I have seen videos from him before. I do know that because I
Series like Yogi Bear, Wacky Races, The Flintstones, and
yeah.
Scooby-Doo. It made up 1/3 of the classic Universal Studios theme park ride. And Kanye West is a big fan too. But 60 years later, what inventions and gadgets did the Jetsons get right about? Stop! I'm you from the future. The future? Do I finally find a hat that suits me? I am from the future where I've watched every single episode of the Jetsons.
Who cares if it's been done before? If you do it well, who cares?
From ever happening. And also,
nothing is original.
Ever suit us. The future is a terrible place. The futuristic family live in
no.
Orbit City, a view of future America where courtrooms have commercial breaks and the skies are jammed with flying cars. The Jets.
That is dystopian. Court ads in courtrooms? That is dystopian.
Jetson family are George Jetson, his
But that's
Elroy,
not what you
daughter
talk
Judy,
about for
and
5
Jane,
minutes
wife.
at least
George
in this
works
video.
at Spacely Sprockets, where he canonically
Probably
works
more because
3
I didn't
days a
actually
week.
reach the end of it.
2 full hours.
His official role
Whoa.
is professional button pusher.
Take a look at my button-pushing finger. What do you think?
This seems to suggest a cynical view that people of the future will be lazy and entitled whilst things get done on
comedy,
their behalf.
first and
Something
foremost.
other media suggest will happen. It's actually quite a bleak future. Even the most minor tasks are reduced to mindless button mashing, conveyor belts, and sliding chairs. I know.
Yeah, because it's actually too much effort for how you could see the future. They just wouldn't need buttons. Voice recognition, amongst other things. Not that crazy view, right? Not that crazy idea. You just wouldn't have buttons. But I don't think that would be better.
In the Jetsons that came true, like flying cars, because they're cool.
Yeah,
I don't
because
want to stop this from happening. Even in the past, that's old news. There's literally thousands of articles covering that topic. Roombas, smartwatches, video calls, self-driving cars that crash themselves.
Of all the dumb cars.
It's been done. This is about a future that is too dangerous to allow to happen, rather than some fancy inventions like a dial that makes the buildings go up and down. Oh yeah, I've always wondered, with all those sky buildings, what's on the ground?
The
answer
ground.
will shock you. It's the ground. The question of what's
who's
under all
wondered?
these
I don't think I. Has anyone really asked that? It's obvious. Unless it's like Cloud City or something like. Unless it's like a Corazon situation where it's like thousands of layers. And what happened on the ground level? Why then they? What then? Maybe perhaps, but this no. They elevated buildings to in the sky for no reason, but you could question why, but the humans do a lot of weird shit.
Buildings and floating islands is one that people ask a lot, and the show makes it no secret. It's just the ground. One popular fan theory is that in a shared universe twist, the
you can make like
Flintstones
interesting
actually
theories
live on the ground
there,
level, whilst the Jetsons live above them. Perhaps a sort of meta-commentary on a class divide, with the poor living like primitives below and the elite living at the top. Except in the movie The Jetsons Meet the Flintstones, they actually travel back in time to the Stone Age and have the world's most ambitious crossover.
But I'll bet you Wilma's making Jane feel right at home in the kitchen.
However, in one episode, we do see evidence of homelessness as somebody appears to be living
That's
on the ground
a
level.
joke.
So there is a class divide created by the tall.
That's a joke that will never hold. And if you criticize that, those types of jokes are still done to this day. Especially, although I will say now more about men than women, but they do occasionally do women as well, especially comedians. They might do it because
Towers
it's
of the
not
future.
common.
I mean, all this stuff seems rough, but what's so terrible about the future? Black people. Let me
There it
finish.
comes.
There are no black people in the future.
The answer for this is very simple. Why there aren't black people in the Flintstones? It's because they weren't on their mind. If you live in a place where 99% are white and you make a show, it's very unlikely you're gonna make a black character unless there is a famous black person or a famous black person, whether it's historical or well a celebrity, right? You're probably going to make the characters similar to well, and this is not an active thing. If they actually hated and disliked it, they would have ridiculed them or some sort of like, oh, like they're actually monkeys, or something along those lines. Making joke, not necessarily making jokes of them, but anyway, they would have belittled them or talked about how they went extinct because they were stupid or something like that. That might be the bad.
Why did you not gasp that time? Why aren't you reacting? Oh my god! Do we still get flying cars?
Maybe he says that. Maybe he says that, but like it didn't sound like that so far.
Eddie! The original run of the Jetsons ran from 1962 to 1963.
This is partially of the reason.
And in all 24 episodes, there is not a single black person in the show, not even in a crowd.
It's the reason why there's so few black people in like name an anime. There might be one, rarely more. Rarely are there more than that. And sometimes they will say it's a black character even though it isn't. They're either just tanned, or they say it's because of it, or they say, oh, this character kind of reminds me of a black character, even though they never were.
Shot. But why?
Like the whole bunny thing in like the bunny girl in what no, it's 3 minutes or something like that.
Let me finish. There are no black people in the tin. Almost in 1963, and in all 24 episodes, there is not a single black person in the show, not even in a crowd shot. But why? Following World War II, there was a renewed optimism for the future, coupled with the launch of Sputnik, which is a funny word, it really is. It created a fascination about future
because
technologies.
it's Russian.
This is seen in Googie-inspired architecture like the Las Vegas sign, the Space Needle, and the Atomium in Belgium.
I'm here at the Atomium in Belgium. It's an enormous, futuristic, atom-shaped building built during Expo 58, designed to exhibit advancements in science and technology to make a better life for mankind. And it's also got enormous balls.
As well as these comics by Arthur Radebau, which present a future whilst still looking very 60s, you can see the clear influence the Jetsons took when creating its own future. But these also depict a future with the absence of black people. Journalist Matt Eddache said, "The Jetsons was expressly
I scream.
written as a
I actually scream because it's so infuriating. It's so stupid. It's so infuriating. It's not because of racism or something like that. It's because, well,
is that black people were systematically excluded from post-war institutions that allowed many other white families, like our fictional Jetsons, to achieve.
Doesn't mean that they were racist.
The scarcity of black characters was.
I'm talking specifically about the creators. I'm pretty confident saying if they were actually racist, or even mildly, they probably would have had some sort of quip about black people in this show. Like, humiliating them. Like you see in a bunch of, well, quite frankly, modern day about men. A lot of time, like, when written by specifically feminists, or more specifically, female feminists, activists, where you see men are typically rolled in, well, humiliated on. They are never allowed to, well, to hold any sort of, like, never any sort of competence or like that.
Exclusive to the Jetsons. It was the same industry-wide across many shows in the 50s and 60s, even in other Hanna-Barbera shows. We all too well understand
Again,
this
it's the
sort of
same
thing to
reason.
be a product of its time, but I guess to set the Jetsons in our own future turns this product of its time into something more dystopian. In this era, the
If 90% of the people are white, right? How likely is it to see a black person? Well, it's 10%, right? So if you have if you have, like, let's say 90 characters in, statistically there should be 0.9 black person.
few black characters we did see were often seen in subservient roles, like the mammy stereotype, such as Hattie McDaniel's.
Probably because at the time that were, at least stereotypically, what the jobs they did have. They did not have the high-paying CEO jobs. Yes, times have changed, but in America specifically. Or there were just stereotypes, because that happens.
Oscar-winning role in Gone with the Wind. The maid/cook/nanny character is often portrayed as older, with a larger figure, is a happily devoted servant to a white family, but would be a little sassy with the occasional quip.
Well, Annie, why don't you draw up a chair? Then you'd be more comfortable and you could hear everything that's going on.
I would if I thought I'd hear anything worth listening to.
You would.
And in the Jetsons, they purchased
You would.
Rosie the Robot, an all-in-one
It's just funny.
maid/cook/nanny.
And they're gonna say, hey, it's a black person. Why are you so obsessed? Like, why are you so obsessed over that? Like, if you made a joke, right? You made it funny. You didn't take it seriously. Maybe, but then it's very poor execution in that case.
But they're
I
warned that
believe
she's
you
a
can make fun of anyone.
less desirable model.
The old girl's still eager, isn't she? But of course very
Yeah, she's
H-O-E-L-Y.
She lives happily with her new
Yeah,
family
she's
and
an
isn't
older
afraid
model.
to give the occasional sassy remark.
It's bad manners to leave the table until after you've had your dessert.
Disturbingly, it seems in this 1960s vision of the future, what few positions were available to minorities have been replaced with AI. By all accounts, non-white
Dude,
people...
when you have a character which job is to press buttons. Oh no! They're taking away the jobs of the black people. Oh! I don't think that's the reason why it's a dystopia. I think, like, the fact that they have jobs that is to press buttons, that's quite dystopic. They're literally having people do stuff to do stuff.
do exist in the future, just not in the Jetsons city.
Aren't you going to finish your coffee, Dad?
Nope. Came out too strong this morning, but don't throw it out. Some pygmies from Africa may show up and want to dip their spears in it.
Oh God, it's because of the spears. It's because of the fucking spears. Oh my God, I hate this. I've seen so many comments. I've gotten comments because I talk to people and where they just don't get very obvious jokes. This is from specifically people that talk about, like, hated YouTubers. As in this case, the one that I commented was Nux Taku, and where they, like, I asked for, like, the reasons, right? Because there are reasons to hate Nux. He does kind of ask for it, but he does get hated for very dumb dumb reasons. and in one of them, like one of the like, ah, they mentioned a video like I'd watched, but I did not remember any like wait what type of I couldn't remember because there has been bad takes by Nux, right? Like very in with things that even he himself has stated. But then they stated, and he said like, but you fuck one dog, which is a joke, by the way. It's a joke about like, oh, you can do all these things, but you do one bad thing, and you're forever known as that one bad things. In this case, you fuck a dog, you're forever known as a dog fucker, right? Although this is not an original joke, as it was like a goat. I believe it's a goat joke. The joke was something like along like this. You see this? You see this bar? I built it, right? And then he points to another thing, like that, like let's say a bridge. He said, I built that brick for brick, right? But I'm not. And he also says like, but I'm not famous. I'm not known for that. And then at the end, he says, but you fuck one goat, right? That's how this good joke goes. It is a very obvious joke. In this case, it's joke. It's a joke. It's a very clear joke. Anyone that has like a few brain cells that are just open, that don't look for like a specific biased take, they will probably see it as a joke. You might not laugh at it, and even the character is laughing at it, so it's very clearly a joke.
And the show alludes to the civil rights movement, but with Martians instead.
Yes, they joke about it. You could joke about anything.
Girls need me for their protest meeting at the United Planets building. I get to carry a sign, Martians go home.
Well, that's space racism. Spacism! Wow, maybe we should do...
It would still be racism. If anything, you might call it speciesism. Or xenophobia. That would fit, I suppose.
more to diversify
God,
our
I hate
do we
it.
both need to be a white guy? I'm you! I'm you from the future! We've covered this! What's wrong with you? As you can probably tell, the future of the Jetsons is really just the 1960s.
And, like, you remember how this was like, oh, this is, the title is The Future According to the Jetsons, and why it's bad. You would have thought that you would have talked about the implications of this if, as an example, having a job that's specifically pressing buttons, right? But they don't. He doesn't. Like, it's 6 minute in. Like, you were nearly half into a 20-minute video. He hasn't mentioned any of that. It's so stupid.
But with more robots. It's frozen in time. The Jetsons returned for a second series, being brought back 20 years later in 1985.
Yeah.
And this time, the characters
hell,
were
reruns.
white people. Like this guy.
Again, this is not because of racism. It's not because of any... Oh, it's because now, at this point, more black people has gone into roles. Right? They've gotten into major roles like celebrities or famous athletes, or they've mingled in. They're not as separated anymore. So these would be more, well, daily. It would be more normal for them. So they would naturally more put them into shit like this. This is every single comic. If there, it's almost certain, right? Almost every single piece of media, when you see this, an artist has made a comic book. Even if it's a fantasy world, they may add things like fantasy races, like dwarves, elves, whatever. But they won't be black, unless that race is stereotypically black. Why? Well, they typically don't read things that are, well, that race is that color. Their lives don't really. Let's say they're from Spain. The world would, other than certain things, like as an example, the elves being pale, dwarves and whatever also uh, would also mimic like famous like Lord of the Rings. They would look like that because you have an image in your head about that famous race, and if it's a high fantasy, you have to have this race in it. You have to have elves, you have to have dwarves, you have to have some sort of monstrous demon orc race. Then so you put it in and how your view of it. It's kind of like everyone has a stereotypical view of like a lot of people have like a certain view of Vikings, at least when they're young, because that's how they're portrayed, like the horned helmets. But that's just very wrong historically, because like black people didn't really have much role. They didn't really exist in it mirrored that. Not because they're necessarily racist, but because you write what you know.
Abby Andromeda, there we go, a black guy. The future is saved. Except in that last shot where they accidentally animate him as a white guy.
This happens in literally every series ever. You have animation errors or whatever. Or drawing errors. Oda in One Piece has done that several times. And basically every single, like, other than like, especially with series, maybe not with like movies where they work months and months and months and months, or years even. Things still slip through occasionally, but then it's a little more rare. But for a series like this, it happens. You see this all the time. People typically laugh at it and don't take it seriously. Oh, there's an animation error.
You were so close! The 80s did a lot to try to free up the Jetsons, moving it away from the stock sitcom plots that were often lifted from other shows, stuffy mother-in-law jokes, and entire episodes dedicated to why women are terrible drivers.
Again, this is a joke that even happens today. Why would you judge them like 40 years ago that they would do the same fucking joke? Although now they do more men jokes and women, I suppose, because women always have to be strong, independent women, right? You can't make fun of anything. It's not like it's been a joke for like ever.
What's the problem?
Women drivers, that's the problem.
The 80s series
Like the greatest joke, like the greatest video ever made. Women. We all know it's the funniest joke ever, but like, then there's certain women typically don't get it a lot of the time, and then there's certain women defenders, they obviously don't get it. Feminists especially don't get it, and then you have the relatively normal men that get it, get the joke. Then there's the ones that are the alpha male women haters that just don't really get it. They don't get it.
also tried to fix a huge problem.
Kind of get it, but at the same time,
that
no.
Jane Jetson might have been a child bride. You see, in the 60s series, we learn that George is 40 years old.
You should live to be 150.
I've got 110 good years ahead of me.
We learn Jane's age in the very first episode, and it requires far less maths homework.
Don't be smart. You know I'm only 33.
George is 40, and Jane is 33.
Yeah, 7 years difference. Is not as weird. It's not as uncommon as you see. You see 20-year difference today. Like a 50-year-old is married to like a 20-year-old. I think it's a bit weird, but like 7 years is not as weird. It's not as uncommon as you see. Like if it was
an age difference of 7 years, which wouldn't be unusual.
It says like he would live to 150. it's not strange to think that they married, well, at a later date. Also, like, that age is also, like, not that... It wouldn't be inaccurate to say, like, you say, oh, he lived to 150. Okay, but would you really say you have 110 good years ahead of you? It's like, until your literal death, would you really say that? Like, would you really say, oh, if you know for sure that you would live to like 90, would you really say, and you were 20, would you really say, I've 70 good years ahead of me? I wouldn't. But hey, you could say that.
Were it not for daughter Judy.
If I was only 15 again.
If Judy is 15 and Jane is 33, that means Jane gave birth when she was 18 years old. Was Jane pregnant at 17 by someone who was 25? Now...
Oh my god. First of all, that's not a child bride. 17-year-old. You might, some Americans specifically might say that's a child. Anything under 18 is a child. That's not really true. Any, like, if you look at the world standard for what the average age of consent is, it's not that high. Average age of consent. It's not even universally 18 in America because apparently some states have different laws. The world average of consent is 16 years old. So the world average. If you look at this, Ireland's heterosexual sex in 17, 16, 14 Germany, 15 Romania, 14 Italy, Morocco 15, Ghana 16, Congo 14, California 18, New York 17, Brazil 14, Argentina 13. Yeesh. That's a yikes. 15 is okay. 14 is a bit low. 16 is, I'm pretty sure, where I live. That is, I don't think like a 20-year-old should be with a 16-year-old though, but hey. You're also assuming that you're doing a lot of assumptions. 17. 18. Oh, they had a child at 18. Whoa.
Now, marriage and consent
But
laws
could
differ
you
from state to
imagine
state,
the
and this
world we
wasn't
live in? The
an
world we
unusual
live in.
thing back in the 50s and the 60s, but
you know, that used to be the common age, like a relatively common age to have a child. First marriage.
By the 1980s, it had become a bit more taboo. So the 80s series tried to retcon this age difference, like an episode about how George dated Jane in college, steering them both to...
Yeah, but well, it might be a retcon, but it might also not be. It's fairly easy to explain that
be about the same age, but
it
then
wasn't
much later...
that it isn't like totally accurate. Like when you say you might... Sometimes you say time, like oh, it's like 100. Yeah, it's like, or you might say a number, but you don't literally mean that number. Like, oh, it's like 100 degrees outside. You say that because it's hot, not because it's literally 100 degrees outside. And you take that, oh, a good 110 years ahead of me. And just so that they could get it to 6, at most 17. They could have gotten a child before college.
Episode, Judy says...
Mom was pretty young when you were married, wasn't she?
Well, yes, but that was a long time ago, and things are different now.
This is an
Yes, and they lived to 150 years old.
interesting admission. Like, is the show itself acknowledging that some of the things from the original series might now be a bit dodgy in a modern light? Because it was
It kind of isn't, though. It's just some weird American thing. Like, if you're under 16, yes, you shouldn't be with a mid-20s. 18-year-old would be fine, but anyway, my standard.
a long time ago and things are different now, and this scrubs away the college prom retcon in the process. So, to recap, George is 40, Jane is 33. Judy is 15/16, so therefore Jane gave birth to her first child when she was about 18. But hey, the minister that had wed them turned out to be a fake, another 80s retcon, and their marriage never counted in the first place, so if she was a child bride, she's not anymore. In the eyes of the Jetsons,
She wasn't a child bride. A teen bride, yes, perhaps. But child? No. Have you ever heard of teen pregnancy? It's not that wild of a concept.
something much worse. They're unmarried parents.
Daddy, how could you?
How can I show my face at school?
God, imagine being unmarried parents.
Imagine a
Unthinkable.
joke.
It's unthinkable. I can't even think it. Yeah, me
It's
too.
literally a joke.
3,
Yes.
4, 5, 6.
Who would have
think
thought? Who would have thought media literacy done? Who could have ever imagined that this is a
something
joke?
Much worse. They're unmarried. Not a retcon. At 18 is 15. So, to recap, Jane gave birth to another 80s retcon, and their marriage never counted in the first place, so if she was a child bride, she's not anymore. In the eyes of the Jetsons, it's something much worse. They're unmarried parents.
Who would have thought this was a joke?
How can I show my face at school?
God, imagine being unmarried parents. Unthinkable. It's unthinkable.
We understand this is a joke. But then when you talk earlier, it doesn't sound like you were joking much of that, because a lot of what you talked about was also a joke. And this unmarried thing was also a joke in the series as well.
Can't even think it. Yeah, me too. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Going from the 60s animated sitcom for adults into an 80s kids cartoon, the Jetsons seem to benefit from this change with improved ratings.
If your beast doesn't stop molesting my poor Jezebel.
Please don't say molesting in a kids show. But it was short-lived.
Oh
the
my
Jetsons
god,
movie from
it's like, you
1990
don't do sexual jokes in this kids show. Kids will not understand that, so what's the harm? They lack context. Some things, a lot of jokes require context to understand. If you don't have that context, which in this case kids wouldn't have, well, they wouldn't get the joke. They might have asked the parents, which might be some awkward conversation, but hey.
Whilst had some really nice sequences blending CG elements with 2D characters, it was a huge box office bomb, and after that, the Jetsons' vision of the future is only really remembered today as a punchline.
We're from the future, the magnificent far-off year of 2002.
Really?
I mean, does anyone remember George Jetson's famous catchphrase?
Jane, stop this crazy thing!
Jane, stop this crazy thing! Stop this crazy thing!
Did you not hear me out there?
Dad, are you all
Go to your room, Elroy.
But what happened?
Go to your room!
Except it's not
Family Guy,
Jane, stop
remember
this crazy thing. It's Hooba Dooba.
Uber duper, uber duper, uber duper, uber duper, uber duper.
They said that in the series
Uber
as well.
duper, that was some trip.
I guess after Scooby Dooby Doo and Yabba Dabba Doo, they really thought that this oobly doobly catchphrase would be just as timeless and memorable.
And now back to the Eddache Rangers.
Oopie poopie. They're fucking dead.
An unfair but easy explanation
Such
of
a
the
bad
Jetsons
joke.
is just the Flintstones, but set in the future instead of the past. But the Flintstones was ironically a lot more inventive. If the Flintstones wanted to, say, clean the floor, they'd use a mammoth's trunk like a vacuum cleaner. Whereas in the Jetsons, it's just robot hands doing the same thing. In this case, the Flintstones was just a lot more creative and imaginative in how they reinterpreted modern things in a Stone Age setting. Look, animal abuse is just funnier than robot hands. That's just how it is. But by your own admission, the Jetsons did correctly guess some inventions. Well, yes, with a little stretch, they did predict some stuff. But in other ways, it was pretty obvious. Take the video call, for example. Whilst Zoom meetings and Discord video calls are normal to us, it didn't exist in the 1960s.
People still like the show.
Except the idea
That's just not
of the
what the
video
show
call
was about.
has existed for almost as long as the telephone call. Here's a video call in Metropolis in 1927. Here's an illustration from 1910 showing a video call. And here's one from 1900. And here's one from 1879.
Originality doesn't exist.
Alexander Graham Bell was still alive. Hello. So by the time the 1960s rolled around, the idea of a video call wasn't a new one, but the naturally assumed next step in evolution after the telephone and the television. However, despite this, there's one small moment that actually kind of shocked me with his brilliance. A fleeting and deeply insightful moment, and it's to do with flying cars. Go on. In
Because
one
flying
scene
cars
on
are
the ground
stupid.
level, a bird walks along and says,
With all the traffic in the sky these days, the only safe place for us birds is on the ground.
This surprised me because, intentional or not, it shows a very real consequence to the so-called utopian future of technology. If cars could
Flying
fly,
cars are fucking
then the
stupid.
birds would not.
That's
If we look at this,
that wasn't the
2050
point of the Jetsons. They made fun of this future aesthetic because the future aesthetic wasn't original. They'd done it. They've done countless times before then in books or other types of media. So that's not original. None of that is. They made fun of it a lot of the time. Again, that Jane, stop this crazy thing was a thing in the series, as you showed. And again, is that not them joking on a lot of that? Making jokes on it? Calling it kind of stupid?
Report for instances of birds hitting planes. About 70% of bird strikes occur when the plane was less than 500 feet in the air. But at 3,500 feet in the air, those...
Shocking, because there's so many birds flying at 4,000 feet in the air. Birds typically fly at 7,000 kilometers in the air. It's space, by the way. So the spaceship will have so many birds.
Collisions go up to 90%. So, if we suddenly crowd the skies with flying cars, they would be crashing into birds all the time. And the ones that survive may retreat
I
from us.
do wonder, what is the average?
Guys, forever. Technology is evolved.
Well, evolution. Suck it. Average bird flight. Average bird 150 meters or 500 feet for most species. But during migration, many birds can fly much higher, ranging from 610 to 1,501.5 kilometers, or 2,000 to 5,000 feet, and sometimes even reaching 6,000 or 20,000 feet. Damn, it's pretty impressive. But again, shock, right? Typical, much lower.
Been too fast for nature to keep up with it, and it can be dangerous. The Jetsons have done some soft-handed environmental messages, but this one line is the smartest social commentary the show has ever made, and I don't think they meant to do that.
I guess us birds will just
Because primarily a
okay, fine.
comedy
You've made
show,
your
first and
point.
foremost,
Look,
not a...
I have two more questions.
the
One,
commentary
do we have
on
more friends in the
the
future?
world.
Oh yeah, our friend circle has
Comedy
completely
show.
doubled. We now have 2 friends. Sounds exhausting.
What?
And 2, why now? If you want to stop the Jetsons from happening, then why not go back to when it aired in the 60s? The TV show was just a warning. We have to stop the real-life, actual George Jetson from ever being born. Ooh. In
What?
2021, there were some viral posts about how George Jetson was going to be born in 2022. These posts include a date of birth being July 31st, but there's zero mention of that in the show. Likewise, there is no mention of what the current year is for the Jetsons, but the closest we get are hints that it's been 100 years.
After a century of brilliant scientific progress, you'd think someone would invent a decent fly swatter!
Official promotional material do state the year is 2062, which is exactly 100 years from the show's original airing in 1962. This is confirmed in the first issue of the official Jetsons comic book. So, if we presume that this is the case, and George is 40, then he would be born in the year 2022. And all those viral posts and articles would be absolutely correct. God, imagine they were all wrong.
Yes, but they never stated that he was 40.
To watch the episodes to find out the actual age of George Jetson.
I took a youth serum. I'm really an adult. Sure you are, son. See, I'm really 38.
He's 38.
38,
George
huh?
Jetson is not 40 years old. He's 30.
So you were wrong. Then what the hell was this? What the other part about? If they blatantly stated this, why the hell did you need to calculate it?
8 years old. He wasn't born in 2022. He's going to be born in 2024. This year. Whoa. So the real George Jetson could be slippy slidey out of someone's vagina right now? You are my biggest shame. I want to throw you down the stairs. This could be another attempted retcon to close the age gap between him and Jane a tiny bit, and...
But they didn't blatantly state that he was 40. He said, I have a good 110 years ahead of me. So it's not that shocking that that was not literal. It's kind of like how the 100-Year War did not last 100 years, it lost 116. Probably because 100 years sounds better. It's like 100 years.
As for what he said during the Daredevil thing, he doesn't explicitly state his age, and he's probably just rounding up a bit. That's why I came back to this year, to stop George Jetson's birth from happening. I've come to take your balls. Me? Yes. We go on to
Such
become
a
the father
funny
of George
joke.
Jetson and the terrible future that comes with him. We have to stop this now. Can't I just have a vasectomy? We can't take any risks. But don't worry, I've brought a hammer. But what about the 2017 Jetsons movie? The what? In 2017, there was a new Jetsons movie guest starring WWE
Because it was
wrestlers.
popular.
And I don't know why.
Everybody listen. Big Show's been frozen in ice for 100 years.
Given that the present day of the wrestlers appeared to be late 2015, based on this being the last time Sheamus was a WWE heavyweight champion, this means 100 years later, the future of the Jetsons is actually set in 2115, and George won't be born for another 53 years. Since when do you know anything about wrestling? Wrestling? I don't know what that is. Yes, it's possible that the Jetsons are always in a ever-shifting future, like a mirage that's always the same distance away, no matter how close we get to it. Or that the wrestling movie isn't canon at all.
Except I've never actually made anything time travel.
Yes, you did, Elroy! That's how you met the Flintstones! Come on, Eddie. Just put your balls on this cinder block and let's just get this over with. But maybe, just maybe, we should stop living in the past or the future and just live in the now. What do you say? If you do this, I'll give you a flying car.
Flying cars are stupid.
Hang on, there's actually
became
one
an
other
Eddache.
huge discovery I've made about the future. Did you notice it? Let me explain. It began when I actually flew over to Belgium just for that one shot, but I filmed even more while I was there that I just had to cut for time. Therefore, I made it its own mini travel vlog and made it available exclusively on Nebula, who are the sponsors of this video.
You don't want to know why the flying cars are stupid? Well, it's pretty simple. Would you trust it? Car crashes happen. Would you really trust people to, well, Fly in the air? No.
As for the big discovery, look.
Unless you made them really simple to drive and safe. Which, if you ever seen a plane crash, is a bit more difficult to. Well, say it is safe than a car crash. As not only does it crash, it also falls and crashes again.
Nebula is right there. I guess the Jetsons really can create a made platform.
That's because Nebula is a space term. They probably used that.
No memory document dive must track the start because some of you, when you completely traditional media that you don't want to for a lifetime membership, have it owned project. So sign up now.
You probably have seen the Nebula ad a lot of several. Is that all?
Ion craze.
If that's all it needs.
Yeah, it's all. That's all. 40 minutes for a 20-minute episode. Not too bad, not too bad, not too bad. I probably could have said a lot more if I stated on like stupidity of like actual some of this more in depth. I probably could have. But yeah, that's the end. If you watched, thanks for watching. This video is so fucking stupid. So fucking stupid. Like a quarter of this video, more than that in fact, is like, but there's no black people. And then like talk, oh, but the 80s versions had black people. It would have been funnier. And like, what if this was actually why it was bad? Why the future is bad? I still don't get it. How someone is like, how when he was born and like, oh, he's a child marriage. Should have probably mentioned the approximate thing with 110 as well, but it's still kind of stupid. Probably a lot of things that I could have mentioned. God. It's so stupid. What? You didn't even talk about how this is dystopic at all. Maybe the first 2 minutes you did. And slightly with the flying cars, with hitting birds, but if that doesn't sound very, well, bad. Birds already die, yes, there would be more of them, but they would learn. Like, you see, sometimes evolution happens faster. Like how a lot of elephants are now born without the fucking, what's it called? The tooth. Elephant teeth. Elephant... big tooth. Big tooth. I'm sometimes... A tusk, yeah, some tusks. The ivory. They're born without it. More and more are born without are smaller. Why? Because the ones that don't, that are hunted, right? Sometimes evolution happens relatively quickly. Obviously, in this case, like flying birds wouldn't fly. They probably would just fly at a lower altitude. Or at a much greater altitude, either above or below it, right? Or maybe they would have walked along the ground, or at least close to the ground. That would have happened probably relatively quickly, if flying cars became widespread. Anyway, that's a buy. That's a buy. 50 minutes now. God, I talk so much. Talk so loud as well.